Welcome back. South Africa's economy received another boost this week when last week, when Chinese President Xi Jinping announced a $14.7 billion investment for the country. Xi was in South Africa for the BRICS summit. The investment will be in the areas of infrastructure development, the green economy, agriculture, and energy.
Trade between the two countries has grown over their 20-year history of cooperation, and China's investment in the South African economy have also increased. One of the most significant investments was the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China's acquisition of a 20% stake in South Africa's Standard Bank. The partnership, now a decade old, is still going strong. The Johannesburg-based Standard Bank chief executive, Sim Shabalala, said the cooperation has resulted in billions of dollars being invested in building infrastructure in not only South Africa, but in a number of African countries as well.
It seems to us that being in partnership with the largest financial institution in the world at the time would be a unique position to occupy, and then to be able to facilitate trade and investment between the African continent and China would also be unique.
Jeremy Stevens, the Standard Bank Group's China economist, also remarked on the criteria that China uses to decide where to invest.
We know that the Chinese are going to go where their export growth is fast, where the demand is for the goods. It makes sense for them to logically move, and so that's really the key to creating sustainable ties.
In 2013, Chinese electronics manufacturer Hisense expanded on its investment in South Africa by establishing an industrial park in Cape Town, creating over 1,500 jobs. Huawei and ZTE followed suit, and in 2016, Beijing Auto committed $800 million to build a new motor plant.
In the African context, we've seen a lot of wind projects with Long Yuan Wind. We've seen BAIC, a car manufacturer, that did sub-assembly here. Now they set up a production line. A very successful one is Hisense, which is a consumer electronics company. They've set up a factory down in the southern part of South Africa.
The investment will be in the areas of infrastructure development, the green economy, agriculture and energy.
And in Kenya, Telkom Kenya, the country's third biggest operator, wants to double its market share to 15% and is selling its transmission towers on a lease-back deal to fund expansion in data and internet services. The company's CEO says Kenya's government should declare Safaricom a dominant telecoms operator to ensure the competitors were not pushed out of business. Safaricom, 35% owned by South African's Vodacom, controls 67% of Kenya's mobile market, with close to 30 million subscribers. It controls more than 90% of revenue in key categories like voice. The regulator issued a draft report on competition in the Kenyan telecoms business 2 years ago. The regulator, the Communications Authority of Kenya, issued a report in 2016 that included recommending Safaricom give rivals access to its transmission sites and network of mobile money outlets, but that has not been implemented. And with vanilla prices shooting up, farmers in Madagascar are forming vigilante groups to watch over their crops as harvest season begins. At $600 per kilogram of vanilla, theft and even murder are rampant. Madagascar produces nearly half the world's crop.
Soaring global prices of vanilla should have been good news for Joe Nasania, a 58-year-old farmer of the luxury spice on the northeast tip of Madagascar. Instead, it has brought poverty, stress, and sleepless nights, patrolling his little patch of jungle with a spear and homemade pistol to ward off the thieves who sneak in to hack off the price orchard pods under the cover of darkness. Over the last year, police and vigilante groups guarded the northern Malagasy forest of Savar, the world's vanilla capital due to its perfect climate. Sometimes, however, villagers whose livelihood depend almost exclusively on the spice used to flavor everything from ice cream to coffee have taken matters into their own hands, beating apprehended suspects to death.
They cut off the vanilla plants and their pods. They cut the vines and put them in their bags. So I have become more vigilant this year, and I had to buy a spear and a small pistol to protect myself and my farm.
To make sure it doesn't happen again, his family will live in the fields for 6 months to protect the crop before harvest. Madagascar produces up to 6,000 tons of green vanilla each year, according to the commerce industry, and last year exported 1,600 tons of processed beans, valued at $680 million, the country's biggest export. Last year, when the thieves first struck, farmers opted to harvest the green finger-like pods early rather than lose them altogether, a logical but ultimately disastrous decision as the premature cropping led to a steep decline in quality. The involuntary early harvest put a dent in its reputation as Trésor de Sava, treasure of Sava, built up over more than a century from French colonial times.
The farmers are the ones who first reported the vanilla theft. They first reported it to their local cooperatives and then to the buyers, who in turn alerted us. We have been working together to try to come up with necessary measures to curb the theft of vanilla. Now, last year's vanilla production was really poor, but they, the farmers and the authorities now, have made a lot of progress this year. They have done a lot to improve the quality of vanilla. So in my opinion, they need to stabilize the price of vanilla, or better still, just reduce the price.
A kilo of green vanilla was retailing for about $46 to $62 or higher. But the industry has to confront other worries. Since prices soared in the past 3 years, many buyers have turned away from Madagascar's natural vanilla.
And with that, we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago.